This is a continuation of some observations and comments on Roberto Calasso's Ruin of Kasch, where he talks about the French Revolution ushering in the age of modernity. And one of his observations is that with the incoming of modernity also came in the era of mediocrity. On pages 25 to 26, he makes an observation of the revolution which would indicate that he's aware of the machinations behind the appearance of the revolution. He says, "What crystalline intoxication to be the man who controls the man, who presumably controls the plot of the revolution." Then he moves on to indicate how society in France changed after the revolution and how people's dress reflected this incoming of mediocrity. He says, "The mixture of styles and images that prevailed in 1790 would soon be reduced to a unity fearful of contamination. Any hybrid was bad. In the streets the foolish variety in styles of dress disappeared, and men began wearing the uniform coat of the New World, first sign of the bourgeois who wishes to pass unnoticed." When he says this, I'm reminded of all around the world the suits that people have to wear to the office. It's quite extraordinary to me that we live in some of the wealthiest regions of the world, and yet the dress sense is so unimaginative and so unbecoming and so reductionist and so uniform. And again, of course, many of those who are wearing these very reductionist uniform suits are those who are trying to blend into this culture of mediocrity that prevails in our society. It's not good to have some kind of sense of style or to have some kind of sense of nobility or dignity or even spirituality about the way that one dresses. And then Calasso continues, he says, "On the stage as well, people rediscovered that unity found in the most tedious golden age that humankind has ever conceived." So we are entering into this golden age of modernity, but it is a tedious golden age. He talks about the violence that took place after the revolution, of course, with a lot of the beheadings that took place with the guillotine. And in fact, it is known that after the French Revolution, there were those that counted up the heads of the executed and sometimes piled them up on their tables while they were making notes of the identities of those who had been executed. And he talks about how there was a trend for people to sing of nature, peace, piety, charity, innocence, the domestic virtues. Calasso says these bigots of philanthropy had their neighbours' heads cut off with extreme sensitivity, so that the happiness of the human race might be ever greater. And then he focuses in the early part of the book on this figure who was a bishop at the time in France, who somehow managed to operate in both the pre-revolutionary and post-revolutionary eras. He managed to survive this transition in a very discreet way. So Calasso says, while every municipal partisan was finally discovering his metaphysics in the vision of the party, Talleyrand maintained the indifference of sky, of water, mobile, elusive, intact among so many faiths. And what's interesting about this point is that Calasso says that with this incoming of the French Revolution, everyone was discovering his metaphysics in the vision of the party. And we know that we can see this in communism as well, that this spirit of society is seen to be reflected in the party. In fact, with the development of nationalism in the 19th century, the nation was perceived as having a kind of transcendental spirit. And the nation was seen as something that could actually replace the primordial path back to the divine. It could replace these religions, these ways that connect us to the higher worlds. The nation began to replace this sense of seeking a higher level of existence, seeking that transcendence. So these are some of my observations, and I will be making more in future short recordings. Thank you.